What's happening, guys? Sam Adams here, and the video title speaks for itself. Is it worth it for Xbox to continue investing in Redfall? I think it's a question that's worth asking today. If you've been out of the loop on Redfall, this is one of the first big new IP that Xbox introduced for this generation, and it's coming from a very notable team, Arcane Austin, behind 2017's Prey. So the game had a lot going for it leading up to its release, but we started to see the writing on the wall a couple of weeks before the launch. The announcement was made that the game would be running at 30 frames per second on consoles at launch, and depending on who you talk to, that may or may not be a big deal, but we're living in 2023 and this is a game that's coming out on one console, the Xbox Series X and S. You would think that this would be a game that would be optimized beyond belief. Now, a 60 FPS patch is on the way, but for the launch of a game to be muddied by this lack of optimization feels like a big miss, and I think that it definitely was. On top of that bad news, the rumors started to flow that critics weren't really enjoying the game, and the tension started to rise as we got closer and closer to launch, and lo and behold, the game did not land that well. Currently, it's sitting at a 56 on Metacritic with a 3.4 user score. I think that from the time that I've spent with the game, a 56 feels incredibly accurate for my experience. There is fun to be had, there are some enjoyable elements to the game, but it's just not really doing anything that differentiates itself in a big way other than the theme and the vibe of slaying vampires. It's a fun idea, but in execution, it's just not the game that Xbox really needs to prove that they're a heavy hitter. Again, we're talking about a first-party game that, whether it's intended to or not, is going to be compared to PlayStation's first-party lineup. This isn't of that quality. This is not that kind of game. And so this was a big loss for Xbox to start off 2023. Now there's plenty to look forward to, but now we get to the real question. Is it worth it for Xbox to continue investing in this, especially when the player count is what it is? Coming from Mr. Matty Plays over on Twitter, he says, I don't mean to kick Redfall while it's down, but these numbers are astonishingly low. The Steam player count speaks for itself, and it is just the 31st most played game on Xbox after only being out for 16 days. Now, digging into these analytics themselves, 246 playing 14 minutes ago, 346 for the 24-hour peak, and 1,560 for the all-time peak over the course of the last 7 days. I didn't believe these numbers were as low as they were. I had to see this for myself, so I went over to SteamDB, where the players are actually lower than the screenshot that Maddie posted. 157 players are online right now. Of course, I will say I am up at 7 a.m. on a Friday, so probably not your ideal player time, but still, 157 active players on Steam, 292 for the 24-hour peak, and an all-time peak 17 days ago of 6,124 whenever the game launched. That's a really low launch. I do want to talk about the fact that this needs to have a big asterisk beside it, a big disclaimer. This is the Steam metric here. This does not include the Xbox app for PC, which is where Game Pass is housed. So the numbers are probably significantly higher than we see them on Steam, but these are reflective of the fact that the game is not sticking around with people. They are not enjoying the game to the degree that they probably should be for a game that's been in development for a number of years that is a big first-party Xbox game. These numbers are disappointing. Now, on top of that, going back to Maddie's post, he also talks about the Xbox ranking for the game itself being at number 31 on the Xbox Top Games chart, below games like PUBG, For Honor, Dead Island 2, which was a pretty big win for this year, Star Wars Battlefront 2, even Halo Infinite's multiplayer. These are all games that are higher than Redfall. This is a failure of a launch. There's no getting around it. And so then we get to the real question of, with player counts this low, with the game falling in the Steam charts, is it really worth it for Xbox to continue investing in Redfall beyond the DLC that's already planned to come out? Now, if you go over to the buyback edition of the game, we get a quick look at what could potentially be coming, or what at least is confirmed to be coming. We have the base game included with the buyback edition, the Redfall Hero Pass with 2 future heroes, and a couple of different weapon skins and attachments along with outfits for the 4 main players in the game. I should say characters, heroes, whatever you want to call them. So, with the DLC that's on the way, we have 2 confirmed characters. Then we turn to the question of, what's coming next? Are we going to be getting free content updates? Are we going to be getting big paid expansions? Is there going to be some kind of expansion pass? And is it worth continuing to put resources into those experiences when player counts are this low? And the immediate thought is to compare it to a game like No Man's Sky that launched in a similar bad state, but that was able to do a full 180. I mean, even today on Metacritic, No Man's Sky has a 61 Metascore with a 3.8 user score because it launched in a bad state. It was not the game that players were promised. If you think back, Sean Murray, the head of Hello Games, had gone on this kind of press tour to build this game up and made it seem like it was going to be this generation-defining, industry-shaking experience. And when it launched, it was a whole bunch of weird planets that were largely empty, and the gameplay felt kind of hollow. There wasn't really a true narrative. It just wasn't what players had been expecting. And so that violation of expectation did not land well, and so the game kind of went into this hiding for a while. Hello Games stopped talking about it. They said they'll be back when they're ready, and they rebuilt a game that people really enjoy today. They've continued to flesh it out. They not only fixed the issues the players had, but they built upon the success. They built upon that I guess, good reception that was paired with the bad reception. And over the years, they have made it into a game that players continue to want to come back to. Going back to SteamDB, 4,715 players are actively playing right now on a Friday morning at 7 a.m. 24 hours, the 7,320 player peak is pretty impressive for a game that released back in 2016. Now, the all-time peak 7 years ago was 212,613, but this is when that negative reception first happened. This was the original launch of the game. And so seeing a game like No Man's Sky have this comeback makes me think, could Redfall do it? And I don't know if it can, because when you look at No Man's Sky, it's sitting at very positive on Steam right now. All reviews are mostly positive with 203,221 reviews. That's pretty impressive when you compare the original reaction of the game. But the differentiating factor for No Man's Sky is that it is a good idea. It was a cool concept. There was a reason people were excited for No Man's Sky, is because it was trying to do something new. This was a game that whenever you first heard about it, it didn't even seem possible. You're telling me I can take off from a planet like you're seeing right here and go to anything that I can see. You're telling me that if I see a star in the distance, I can go to that and I can explore that? That level of exploration had not existed before No Man's Sky. And when the game launched, again, it felt kind of empty, but they fleshed it out to where it truly does deliver on that. That is a novel concept. When you look at Redfall, again, it's pretty much Far Cry with vampires. That's basically what you're getting. I don't know that even if the team at Arcane Austin spent the next 7 years building out what Redfall is, if it would be anything more than what Redfall already is today. It would look better, it would run better, there would be more content in there, more adventures to go on with your squad of vampire hunters, but is that something that is going to be worth the investment that Microsoft would have to keep putting into it? I just don't think that's the case. Now, Arcane Austin isn't going anywhere. They're still finalizing development on Redfall and making it the game that it should be. They're also turning their attention to the next project that they have in the pipeline. But there are some key learnings from this they should take away. They definitely need to hone in on that quality assurance process. Make sure the game runs well. Test the AI more before it finally hits the public. And that goes for not only Arcane, but Xbox and Bethesda. There is a shared responsibility here to make sure these games that are going out and representing the Xbox brand are of a quality to where people can enjoy them and they can really compete with the competition, because that's what first-party games are meant to do. You have got to make sure they're ready. And now we have a game that is incomplete, not really that fun to play, and on top of that, really just makes us question the future of what Xbox needs to do with the title and the IP altogether. Of course, I'd love to know your thoughts. Should Xbox continue to invest in Redfall, potentially prepare for a sequel, or should this be one of the IP that gets put on the back burner while games like Fable and Avowed start to rise to the top? Leave your thoughts down below. But thank you guys for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, I appreciate you very much. I'll catch you on the next one, and until then, keep on playing.